Well, welcome everybody. I think we're about ready to get started. How many people it's the first time to talk here at A&H? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. The thing I was talking, I had the pleasure of talking to Mary today, and the thing that we were talking about is, and Trent knows this, you know, he used to be our board president. Now he's on the board, he used to be our board president, is that we kind of pull back the veil, and you kind of get this intimate access to artists that you don't really get anywhere else, which is really unique. And you know, I'm an artist, I'm the chief curator here. I've been with the museum, I think 11 years now. And, but for me, I've worked in a lot of different institutions, up in New York, here in Florida. And there's nothing like A&H as far as this kind of wonderful, intimate setting where you can get to know the artist and ask them questions, and conversations like tonight, where we don't really plan them out, we don't really know which way they're going to go, are the best, because they just wind up finding their way into this lush garden of revealed stuff about Mary's working process. So. Mary and Trent, can I invite you to come on up? Yes, please, welcome. So we're really pleased tonight to have California-based artist Mary Graham with us. She'll be here with us this February and March for 2 one-week stays in our residency program. Mary's time with us is part of our partnership with the Zora Neale Hurston Museum of Fine Arts, where each year's first resident artist is selected by their curator to stay with us on our campus in conjunction with Zora, Festival of the Arts and Humanities, and Black History Month. Mary Graham is both a visual artist and a singer. She moved to San Francisco in 2018 to attend the College of the Arts. Her art is influenced by community and human origins and integrates ancestral narratives. Mary's work is currently on view at the Zora Neale Hurston Museum of Fine Arts through the end of the year, and we are excited to share her practice at our site through a series of public programs like tonight. Please join us also on Friday, March 27th for a visit with Mary in her studio here at A&H and her exhibition in Eatonville. And we look forward to tonight's talk to learn more about her incredible process. My dear friend, Professor Trent Tomengo, is a distinguished professor of humanities at Seminole State College of Florida and professionally exhibits his paintings in museums and galleries. He was an artist in action here at A&H from 2013 to 2015. Mr. Tomengo has earned a BA in Fine Art from Stetson University and an MFA in Painting and a graduate certificate in Museum Studies from the University of South Florida. Upon graduating, he served in dual roles as the assistant curator and program coordinator at the Zora Neale Hurston National Museum of Fine Arts. He is also a sought-after public speaker and writer on spirituality and the human condition in art. He is also on our executive board, where he was our past president. So please welcome Trent and Mary. And I'm excited because when I asked Professor Tomengo which way he wanted to go with this, he said, I just want to have this free-flowing conversation about Mary and her process. So I'm eager to see where this goes, my friend.
All right, thank you, Dan, for that wonderful introduction. All right, so when Dan asked me to do this Monday, he asked me Monday. Dan usually does these talks on Wednesdays, and he's amazing in how he's able to get to the crux of what an artist does. I'm just amazed at how he's able to sort of get into the artist's mind and ask the right questions to where, you know, it really does give the public what they want from artists. And so he asked me to do this, and it's like, okay, I have to follow in Dan's shoes to do this. But this was a perfect time to do that because I met Mary when, actually I met her through email. when Lonnie Graham, the curator at the Zora Neale Hurston Museum, introduced us for us to work on getting her work to the Zora Neale Hurston Museum in Eatonville. So I met her, had a chance to have a little bit of conversation, and then after the opening of the show in Eatonville, which we hope that you guys will go to see in Eatonville, which is like 5 minutes up the street, wait until their hours of operation. But go and see the show. At that opening, after that opening, we went to lunch with her, Lonnie Graham, NYD Theater, the executive director, and I went, oh my God, I get to have lunch with the artist now. But I didn't get a chance to ask the kind of questions that I would like to ask because, you know, we're just having lunch, and, you know, she just talked wonderfully at the opening, and it was like, dude, you know, just let the woman relax, you know. But, you know, as a painter and as a portraitist, it's like, I got all of these questions. So when Dan asked me to do this Monday, I'm like, oh yeah, now I get to ask my questions, right? And honestly, this conversation is supposed to be for you all, not for me, right? But I'm going to usurp my authority as a moderator, and I'm going to ask at least one question that I wanted to ask, all right? And then after this conversation, we'll open it up to everybody. So I'm going to get my question in, right? All right. So at any rate, this is Mary Graham, and I'm just going to involve her in the conversation, and we'll see how this goes. Is that okay with you guys? All right. All right, Mary, we're going to pretend like they're not here.
All right.
All right, so can you pull up one of the images, because I want to use the image as the talking point. All right, so this is your value test series. Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing this series?
I started the series a few months after I graduated in 2022. So how many years is that? Is that 4?
That is 2022, we're 20, yes, that's 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been trying to stop, but I just keep making more.
All right. And so explain to the audience what you mean by value test and this whole brown paper bag thing for people who, there's some of us that might know, but then there are others that might not. So can you bring everybody up to speed on what this is?
Well, if you've noticed, all of the work is painted on an actual paper bag, an actual brown paper bag. And it's directly referencing the paper bag test, which was a real measure of a person's skin color, mostly used within the Black upper class in the early part of the 19th century. So in historically Black colleges, in upper class Black clubs and sororities, they would host these paper bag parties in which if a person was lighter, then they would be allowed to enter, and if they were darker, then they would be denied. Mm. And this was college applications, it was job opportunities, and then it became more, so the thing about the paper bag test and this whole idea of colorism and racism is that it is not truthful to say that it originated within the Black community, because, these kinds of racial caste systems, we all kind of understand where all that came from, during enslavement. Heavy question to start off with, but, it's like, the mixed race and light-skinned children of the enslavers were at times afforded preferential treatment, or opportunities that perhaps their darker-skinned brothers, sisters, aunts were not. Period. So this idea that lighter skin, this observed reality that lighter skin provided a proximity to power and privilege became internalized. And I think many of us, even outside of the Black diaspora, can relate to this on some level, because, you know, the color hierarchy exists in many different forms, you know, all around the world. Yeah, so value test, to answer the question, is kind of a play off of the paper bag test. You know, I was talking with my colleague, and, you know, many artists will attest that, you know, the paper bag test is really, it's talking about value, the hue, shade, and color. These are terms that you're familiar with as a painter. Value has many dual meanings. Value in terms of worth, and also value in terms of the... Now, is value I think it's the lightness or darkness of a hue. So, yeah, I've entitled it Value Test Brown Paper. Almost, yeah, I'll stop talking for now.
No, this is good information, because when you talk about the brown bag paper test and the idea of value, we're talking about something that is very arbitrary. Like,
Yeah.
there's no scientific basis for whether it is more valuable or not. But it becomes very real because it's implemented, institutionalized,
Right.
not just within the dominant culture, but it's institutionalized within the subset of what we call like Black culture.
Yeah.
And because it's so dominant, it takes on a reality that is not a reality, but it is a reality.
That's what was really interesting, particularly why there's a lot of stuff about this series, if you would advance, perhaps. There's a lot about the series that I find a little bit hard to articulate exactly, but I did want to elucidate that contrast. The fact that the bag is like a real tangible thing, and it's a real tangible thing on the canvas, which is maybe not what you're used to seeing in, if you were seeing a portrait in this kind of like, you know, neoclassical representationalist style, you're not used to seeing like an object pasted on the surface. So I had a point that I was going to try to make with that. The real and the intangible, and like the fact that race is a construct. It has been constructed, and yet it is deeply tangible. And like the paper bag kind of illustrates how arbitrary race and colorism and this kind of color-based bigotry is, because it's just like, okay, who decided that like that object, the paper bag, was the deciding color? If you're darker, you can't come in, and if you're lighter, you can, you know? Right, yeah.
All right. This actually segues into that question I've been wanting to ask. All right, and so it's kind of a layered question, but it comes from the mind of a painter, right? A painter who paints realistically, you know. And I know what it takes for me to choose which colors that would make which type of skin that I want to make. So there's a lot of decisions that I know you're making that, you know, people who don't paint may not know. So my question is this: all right, so the question has to do with texture.
Mm-hmm.
Has to do with texture.
Mm-hmm.
You have the texture of the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
You have the texture of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
You have the texture of the paint that you're sort of minimizing because they're all very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have this implied texture with the skin and the wrinkles and whatever it is. Like there's an implied texture in the skin.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you approaching these decisions about texture as you are building these paintings from choosing canvas to choosing the bag, because you can actually just paint a bag realistically and not use the actual texture of the bag. But for some reason, that draws you. What is it about the idea of texture that draws you to the canvas, to the bag, to this implied texture that you see with the faces?
What? That's a really good question. I really like that question. I don't know. Like, as an artist, it's just, you're always making a series of decisions based on, like, honestly, just a gut reaction. Like, there's something in my gut that led me towards, like, painting on an actual bag being the correct decision, and mounting that bag on linen or canvas, and not just linen or canvas, but like a particular weight and weave of canvas. I like that. Normally, I much prefer drawing on a piece of paper or painting on a panel or a metal surface, like a totally smooth and textureless surface is appealing. And so I think, I don't know, I had a professor, Professor Brian Keith Thomas. He was talking about, like, he was listening to somebody gessoing and sanding a canvas, and he talked about the level of care that goes into the preparation of your surface. And I think, to me, there was something really appealing about, like, the tangibility of the paper. Whenever I'm preparing the canvas, I, like, scrunch up the paper bag and I sand it, and then I gesso it to the surface of the linen. And I just use, like, a clear gesso. It's basically just like a clear acrylic medium, and it kind of has a little tooth to it. I think so I wanted the texture and the wrinkles of the bag to show through. And I also wanted the person, the woman, to kind of, like, how do I describe it? Like, circumvent the bag in a way. Like, I wanted there to be a tension between what you're looking at. It looks like she could almost be in front of you, and yet you can see this wrinkle, like a wrinkled paper through her face. Yeah.
No, that's good.
I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, to me, you're making perfect sense. But, I'm not the most mentally stable person, right? But seriously, so as a painter, this idea that you can paint trompe l'oeil, like to fool the eye.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a gift. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of time, and if you can do it, at least for me, I go, whoa, I did that. But to overcome the texture of the bag, first of all, to choose that texture, and to choose to overcome the texture by gessoing it, sanding it, and getting it to a certain kind of level of tooth that it would grab the paint, you could just paint on panel and not even deal with the texture. But the fact that you actually deal with the texture, you want that texture, there's something spiritual about that for me from a painter's point of view. And so you said that the bag is not, the color of the bag is arbitrary. Like, who chose this color of bag to be that? So I want you to talk more about the bag itself, because at least for me, that's where the magic happens in a lot of this work. We're enamored by the bag, but at the same time, we're like, whoa, look at what's on the bag. So talk a little bit more about the physicality of the bag that you're overcoming at the same time you're using.
Well, I'm a artist of the 21st century, I think I'm not, there's like a historical argument to be made about, painting a trompe-l'oeil bag, but because I come from, like a art historical legacy, I know that conceptually, the most effective, creative, and conceptual choice that I can make is to use the actual paper, brown paper. This is not an archival material, quote unquote. Despite the fact that it's technically sealed and air can't technically get in, that brown paper was never meant to last 100 years. It's going to rot, and particularly the oil paint is going to rot that material. And I think I'm veering off of your question a little bit.
No, you're exactly where I want you to go.
But I think it goes to your thing that you said about overcoming. You said the word overcoming, but I think that's exactly it. The fact that it's so, I don't know, it just speaks to this like process of overcoming the subject matter, what I'm talking about, like, overcoming racism internally and also systemically has been this process. Overcoming colorism, despite what people may believe, is still an ongoing process that's very much relevant today. And I'm very interested in the ways that materials degrade and that the material can also be an extended metaphor for what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I didn't want to like fetishize the bag too much.
Right.
It's like, in a way, it's not about the paper bag, it's about the test, and it's about the portrait, it's about the woman, and beyond that, obviously, the thing that we're doing as artists is we're making work about people. So, yeah.
All right, so I do want to get to the people, and I'm going to get to the people. What you just said just really gave me a little bit of insight into the idea of sanding and gessoing, and the bag is not archival by itself, but your process is giving it more longevity, isn't it? I mean, the oil would, well, yeah, right. Let's give it 50 years to see.
Yeah.
But because you use a gel medium, I'm assuming that's what you're using, a clear gel medium.
Yeah.
If you're using an acrylic gel medium,
Yep.
you're using an acrylic gel medium, and you're putting oil on top of that. That acrylic gel medium preserves that bag. Like, unless you sand through the medium, the oil won't touch the bag, which means the oil won't deteriorate the bag. And I'm thinking that because the air doesn't get to the bag itself, because of the medium and because of the oil paint, that bag is preserved longer than what it would have been preserved had you not done anything to it.
That's true.
Right.
I mean,
Well, see, where I'm going with this is what I like about the concept. When Lonnie said, so Lonnie Graham picks the artists who are going to, he's the chief curator at the Zora Neale Hurston Museum, and he chooses the artists or invites the artists to show at the Hurston. And because we have this working relationship with, between the Zora Neale Hurston National Museum of Fine Arts and Zora Festival with the Art and History Museum of Maitland, whoever Lonnie picks for the artists, the feature artists for the year for the Hurston, the Art and History Museum Maitland has a residency for that artist. And so Mary is that artist for this year. So when I got this information, they gave me all this information about Mary, I started looking up stuff about Mary, and I'm going like, whoa. Oh, she's doing some stuff here, right? And so I've always been, sort of enamored by this whole process. and because I paint realistically, it's like, you know, I'm so drawn to it. You got some good painting chops. I mean, it's like,
thank
wow.
you.
And so, for me at least, the idea of preserving that bag the way you do with the gesso and is preserving the idea. Because the work will last a long time to where we can continue to have this conversation as long as the work exists. And so people would say, well, why have this conversation? You know, should we just forget all of this and let's move on? And what I love about your work is like, no, we can't forget this and move on because it's still a part of the current conversation. And absence does not necessarily mean that it's not around. Like if you don't see it, that doesn't necessarily mean that the ideas are not around.
Yeah.
And so I think your work lends itself to the idea of having this continuous conversation so that we can understand how we all exist together.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. That's what yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm very, I grew up with a lot of stories about my ancestors. You know, these were people that I never met in life, but you know, these were also people who were alive during the Great Migration, and they migrated up from North Carolina to Pittsburgh. They worked in the steel mills. Yeah, I could tell family stories, but I think my point was like, I have always had that kind of personal connection to history in a way I feel many of us do, through my ancestors. So to me, looking to the past and looking to the ancestors is, you know, pretty par for the course. And, you know, preserving the memory of what we survived is incredibly important, and telling those stories and like bringing these ideas to the present so that we understand how to deal with our present circumstance, so that we understand how to move forward towards the future. And maybe it's a futile effort because we're, you know, always repeating the past. But I think, yeah, that idea of preserving, I'm far from the first person to make work in this way about the paper bag test. But I think, you know, I find it really interesting that you know, my generation has, you know, taken interest in it and is continuing continuing the conversation.
Mm-hmm. And so I want to ask this other question. That's a layered question. And then I'm going to open it up for the audience to ask their questions. Not that y'all are not important, but like I'm not going to like, you know. And hopefully the questions I'm asking Mary and Mary's answers will generate more questions in you. So when I was looking at your work online, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember seeing some early paintings of your ancestors that you had used in a show. I don't know whether it was your graduate show or whether it was just a show after that, but they were not as tight as these, right? Mm-hmm. And it gave me the sense, I'm like, this is where it began, right? I don't know if that's true or not. Is this where that began?
Mm-hmm. When I was first, and darn it, I should have put them in the slideshow, but it's too late for that now. It's all right. You can visit my website if you'd like to see. Anyway, yeah, I did those paintings of I don't remember, I did my mother and my father first in high school when I was learning to use oil paints. But yeah, I think it was like starting really from the foundation of where it all came from. Like I am of these people are me, they live in me, I represent their values and their dreams, and their talent, and I'm carrying all of that with me into the future. So I was like, okay, let me honor them first. They're the source of my history and our history. And I think that was kind of a subconscious decision that I was making. But yeah, looking back, that's where all the work comes from. It's like, okay, what would they have done? What did they live through? The past, the present, and the future. Yes.
All right,
But yes,
so-
I made them when I was 17. That's why they're a little loose.
Okay, all right, 17. Wow. I wish I could paint that way when I was 17.
I had a really good teacher.
Right,
Yeah.
and so that all good teacher always helps, right?
Deborah Kaola.
Tomatoes.
Yep.
But so I'm going into my layered question, right? I noticed those early portraits, the different lightness and darkness of skin tones, right? And then I noticed in these current works, you got different lightness and darknesses of skin tones, right? All right, here's my question. And from a painter's perspective, there's a certain set of colors that I use for black people's skin tones. And then there's a certain set of colors I use for white people's skin tones. And there's a set of colors I use for, Asian people's skin tones. Like I did all this in grad school. And I would write out formulas. If formulas don't work, they don't work. But I wrote them out because I'm like, I want to remember this. And really what it boils down to is that you just got to make it up each time. But there are still 5 colors that I go to no matter what skin tone I'm doing. They're the base of every skin tone, right? These are decisions that I'm making in terms of color as I'm trying to get it right. What I want to ask you is this idea of the arbitrary color of the paper bag. Now you didn't make up the arbitrary color. Other people did, but you're like, okay, this is the brown paper bag, right? But there's an arbitrary color. When you mix on canvas, you can't be arbitrary about what you do. You have to be very, very intentional. How do you approach those choices of what colors you use as you're trying to be intentional about an arbitrary thing?
That's such a great question. I wanted to clarify something. The people in the subjects of the paintings are fictional. So instead of painting from a photograph of a real person or painting from a live model, I'll take a couple photographs and I'll make a collage just so that I can get the light and shadow references. I'm good at Photoshop, so I do a little something, yeah. And then I'll paint from that as a little reference. So it just goes back to the basics, it's like whenever you're a painter, I don't know, when you're a visual artist, you're really taught how to see, and it's this lifelong process of relearning how to look. And there are some points where I get a little bit bogged down by oversimplifying what I'm looking at. But it's kind of a transformational process because when you paint, you're not, or even when you draw, when you're learning to draw from a thing, you're never supposed to just be that's an amp. You're supposed to be okay, that is a rhombus, and that is a trapezoidish, and that is a little bit of gray. Oh, I'm gonna mix up a little bit of black. Ooh, and there's a little bit of ultramarine over there. You're supposed to retrain how you see the world through color and form and value and shade and line and texture. I think I just I love portraits. I love drawing faces. I think, I just, what do I do? I try to approach every portrait differently. Maybe it's not even a matter of trying. I just kind of do, because it's a different woman that I'm conjuring every time. This is a different person with a different spirit. And whether I want to or not, I do everyone a little bit differently with a different technique. Each of them take a different amount of time. Some of them just come right out. Some of them are really take a lot more effort. So I think, I just start off with a drawing. Sometimes I'll do a pencil drawing. Sometimes I'll do a little underpainting. And then from there, I might start in with the shadows, or I'll just try to work big from small, like big colors that I see in the face. I'll just mix it up, put it on, and then from there I'll just work a little smaller. I was highly trained. I was trained to see the invisible colors that everybody can't.
There you go.
All of this kind of stuff in here, the reds in the kind of, what is that, like a reflection kind of?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these really cool soft tones and the reflected light. This kind of soft brushwork underneath the eyes. And then sometimes it needs to stay really loose. Like in this one, the highlight on her forehead is just like, but some of this is really tight, like in her mouth. There's all this fine detail in the highlights in her lips.
Yeah, so as a colorist, this is a feast for the eyes. Your work is a feast for the eyes.
Thank you.
Because when people paint, this has been recorded, Dan?
It is.
All right. When people who paint don't know how to paint,
You're on the board here. You can say whatever you want.
that means I can't say whatever I want.
You can.
So people who paint black people, if you don't know what you're doing with color, if you're not a colorist, the skin will look like baby doll skin.
Mm.
And when I see any paintings of black people, I'm always looking at what the artist used to bring the painting to life if they're trying to paint realistically. And I can tell, like, oh my God, they use a cadmium red here. They use a Naples yellow there. Like, I'm trying to take apart how they did it so that I can steal it and use it for my own work, right? That's the value of a painting for me. If I can see what you've done, take it apart and go, that person figured it out. And when I saw your work, and I asked you this at the Hurston, when I saw your work, I'm like, hey, Mary, what kind of yellow are you using? Because I'm using Naples yellow, but there's something about the yellow that she uses. And I'm like, how are you doing that? And you said what? Can you remember?
Cadmium yellow?
You said cadmium yellow. And I'm like, cadmium yellow? How are you doing that with cadmium yellow? It's too orange. But it's how she uses it. And so I was using cadmium yellow in grad school, and I didn't like it. I'm like, it's too orange. And I finally found Naples yellow, and Naples yellow works with everything that I'm doing. So I'm like, Naples yellow. And then I saw you, I'm like, how is she doing that? And then you said cadmium yellow, so I'm like, okay, I need to revisit cadmium yellow. So these are the kinds of geeky art stuff that I look at and why I'm just enamored with your work. I'm going to stop, worshiping Mary, and I'm going to
Worshiping Mary. That's a good.
Right. And I'm not.
I don't know
Catholic
about
either,
all that.
Right. But I want to open it up to the audience because I want to give the audience time to ask questions of Mary, so that way you guys. I've done what I came to do. So.
You guys, that was incredible.
Oh, thanks.
Oh my God.
All right. So.
Thank you, Trent.
Any questions for Mary?
Powerful is an understatement.
Oh.
to describe your work. It is beautiful, thought-provoking, and powerful. My question, I'm not an artist, so it's not going to be technical. You're not going to have your final defense up here. But I'm a former educator, and for me, it's about sharing a message with my students. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This audience gets it, I'm sure. But what if you were invited to speak to a group of 5-year-olds and wanted to share your message, the message behind this incredible work, so that they could go, I get it. How would you do that?
Well, I think 5-year-olds are very perceptive about the world around them. More so than, I don't know, I think it only takes a couple of years and you're like, oh, I kind of get what's going on around here, you know? It's like, and then, you know, I think it's a very pertinent question, perhaps, given the political climate. You know, people aren't too keen on wanting to try and educate people about the, you know, real, tangible issues that, you know, preparing young people for what they're going to face whenever they go out into the world. What would I say?
On a positive note, to help them appreciate the history, what you're trying to represent. Not so much the good luck, what you gotta face, but because my research was in gender and racial diversity. And so I would try to incorporate I would try to incorporate my findings to motivate, inspire my students to move beyond what is into what could be. So how could we use the powerful message of your work to inspire this new generation to think, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. I think fundamentally the work is about examining the past so that we can continue this process of healing, so that we can proceed into the future with a greater level of mutual understanding and self-understanding. Yeah, the paintings, it looks as though you're looking into a mirror. And what does that mean whenever you're faced with somebody who doesn't look like you? What do you see in their eyes? And do you see yourself in them? And yeah, maybe that's where I would begin.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I have an easier question.
Can you just speak up so we get it on the mic?
Yeah, I have an easier question. Where
I
are
don't
the
think it's
men?
gonna reach. Go ahead, sir.
Where are the men from all these pictures? Lots of women. Where are the men?
Well, I don't know.
That is the perfect answer. I don't know. There you go.
They're there. Yes.
Thank you for detailing your process with how you come up with your canvases. I just want to know how long it took you to do this series. Like, what was the timeline?
Okay, well, I've been working on it for about 4 years, and there are close to 30 paintings in total. But all of them, they kind of take a long time, like a long time and a short time to make. When I was here, like I mentioned, some of them take, 10 hours to finish. Some of them take 24, some of them take 48. These are amounts of times that are spread out over many days or weeks. So sometimes, if I'm working, have a couple jobs, I'll come home, I'll work on it a little bit, or sometimes I'll just look at it, and I'll spend many days just kind of looking at it. Eventually I'll feel like I need to, just sit and finish it, But I don't know, whenever I'm talking to my mom about it, she's like, yeah, it's heavy subject matter. Like, you need to let it sit, and you need to let the spirit emerge and come and visit and tell you what it needs. It's been very nice to be here in residency because it's just me and the painting, and yeah, so that process is much faster. Does that answer your question?
It did. Okay, one more. Yeah,
Oh,
one more.
yes, of course.
Where do you, well, I feel like I see where you are in like 5 to 10 years. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years from here?
Oh, Well, I have just been admitted to, a master's program. So I am hoping. Oh, thank you. It was a lot of hard work anyway, but I am hoping to spend those next couple years, 2 years. I have new ideas. I have a couple new projects that I want to really round out, and I have this new research. And then after that, I'm hoping to teach. I love teaching. And I hope to maybe be working a day job a little bit less and kind of painting and doing this other work a bit more. But, who knows? Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, good. Yes, sir.
You
Yeah.
answered one of my questions of how do you paint on the bag itself, but you explain most of that process, I believe. If you need some extra bags, I do shop at Whole Foods. Do you use new bags, or used bags, or both?
Well, I also get my bags when I go grocery shopping, so I guess they're used. But that idea was kind of funny. Like, I was imagining how brown paper might have been used at that period of time, just like, there weren't really, like, I think brown paper was much more ubiquitous, and like, I don't know, it maybe felt different than how a brown paper bag feels now. I don't know, it always feels a little funny to me to be using like this fancy little brown paper bag that I got from like a little shop. I don't know, just like the origins of the brown paper, just something else to think about on top of everything else. Yeah, but just shopping, that's where I
Do you
go.
always use larger bags?
No, I use little ones and big ones. Sandwich bags,
Inside
pastry
or
bags.
outside, or both?
Both, because there's a different color. All of the brown paper that I use has a slightly different color, which I think is also interesting.
Do you ever use the handle for something?
Yes.
Do you have a sample of that?
Yeah, it's on, yeah. I think the handles help people understand that it's actually a paper bag that they're
But you
looking at.
don't actually actually use the handle for something else or paint on the handle. Okay. But I did see that.
I'm going to ask a question real quick. Because I have to interject, my mind's going to explode. It was the right choice to have Professor Tomengo do the moderator today, right? I mean, amazing. Yeah. Thank you, Trent. So I was familiar with Mary's work. I oversee the residency programs here with my director, Danielle Thomas. But I did not know until 5 minutes before the talk started that these were not real people. Because when I looked at them, they don't look like a composite of photographs that all are put together. They actually have this presence that looks like it's an actual lived body, you know. So the whole thing for me, conceptually, that I thought was so amazing, that I got in the middle of your talk, I was not aware of the brown paper bag test, which is, you know, I consider myself educated, and here we go, I wasn't aware of that. But for me, you know, with the history of portraiture, it was always the wealthy people in the portraits in the past that confronted the viewer, that broke that fourth wall, you know, that kind of stared at you out of the painting, you know. And here you have this object that is regarded as disposable, right? The paper bags are something you take home and throw away, right? And out of that disposable, what the world defines as disposable, you have these incredibly forceful people that are confronting you and not letting you out. Like when a portrait confronts you and stares directly out of the painting at you, it's not letting you off the hook at all. Does that make sense? Like it's holding you accountable for something that's taking place in that conversation. So I get it now, and I'm amazed at how, you know, and by the way, if you ever get to see Mary's work in person, you have to go see it. They're much better, richer in person. And we're honored to have both Mary and Trent in a group show this summer here at A&H called Us. And it has to do with all the people that we call our Bach Fellows. When Andre Smith started the artist compound here, he had these things called the Bach Fellows in honor of Mary Bach, who funded the place. And our current modern day Bach Fellows are the people that come through our residency programs, like Trent and Mary, and Amir is here. Amir is one of our artists. And so please stop by this summer and see that group show. I think you'll be amazed. But I just wanted to say how conceptually it came together. And you know, the one thing, and I'm going to give it back to you because of what you teach, but you know, I read an article recently about how all of these African American servicemen that had been awarded all of this thing had their documentation and everything had been erased from the military record because of somebody thought that DEI meant, like when they went to erase it, they erased the actual military records of all these brave people of color that had served. So this whole thing of remembrance, right? That whole thing of, and sometimes a quiet voice like yours, like that's happening here, can really kind of not somebody let go of that act of remembrance. And so that's all I had to say. But
Remind us again, how long is the exhibit at the Zora Neale Hurston?
It's
until
all the way
next
until
year.
December of this year, or probably January 2027, a
That's
whole
not
year.
in Eatonville.
It's going to be there a whole year.
Yep.
Yeah. So you got plenty of time to go and see it.
Yes.
Yes. So in this, basically you have like this space of portraits, all possible portraits. And there's fluctuations between them. And there's different colorations and different forms that appears inside of our psyche with a relation. And as you said, when we see the other, we see a mirror reflection of ourselves, right? And there is the additive flavoring, which is the difference. But then there is a boundary that was set. I mean, this is I don't know if it's recent or from ancient times, whatever, a boundary of who is being enslaved, who is being alienated, who is being demonized. where do you think that boundary is stemming from? Is it because of a theory we got wrong? Is it because of a portrait that we drew wrong in a bathhouse of a king or something? You know, where does this come from? Because there's that beauty of this fluctuation. But there is this being, and I'm also curious about this boundary, the paperback, the reference, basically. What is the portrait of that boundary? What gives exactly and precisely on that boundary? And who sets this? Does it live in me? Does it live in everybody? Is it a question of psyche? Is it a question of personality?
That's also a really good question.
It is a really good question.
That, and it is the question. Where does it come from? And I think I learned in school that it does have an origin point. And like the paper bag itself, I think it's pretty arbitrary. I'm wondering why a certain group of people decided that they invented boat travel, and they decided to travel the world, and they decided that their way was the best, and that their aesthetic was the best, that their philosophy was the best, that their God was the best, and that anybody who didn't fall within that ethos was inferior and needed to be corrected. Yeah, so I have a lot of questions. If I could go back in time, I would really ask, because people were traveling around via boat in the ancient times, you know, for like hundreds, thousands of years, you know? And I think that kind of tribalism always existed within people, whether it's like, you know, your skin color or your religion or something else. So that remains the question. I'm not sure. How do we overcome that? So I think the only thing that I'm asking from my humble perspective is just that we attempt for ourselves to try and overcome that impulse towards tribalism, I suppose. I don't like using that word, but yeah. I wish I could address everything that you talked about in terms of, like, you know, the boundary, and I think I'm trying to articulate a lot of what you said through this work, and wanting the bag to also feel like a space in and of itself, and a world in and of itself. I wanted each woman to feel like she was a reflection of a history and of a world. And I want people to feel like that they're entering, you know, these many dimensions.
Everybody, please, a warm thank you for Mary and Trent for tonight. That was wonderful, both of you. Thank you so much.